Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and a ho to all of you. It's Monday night. That means it's time for the Wrestling Inc. Monday Night Raw Wrestling Inc. after show with Triple J, Justin LaBar, Jack Farmer, and Corduroy Jimmy Korderas. And this is about as close to a Christmas episode of Raw as we're going to get this year. And I thought it was fun. But before we get into it, as everyone settles in and finds their seats, how are you guys doing? Jimmy, how are you?
Despite the snow out there and the chill, a little bit below seasonal norm, but it's, you know what? Like you said, it's Christmas time. It's in the air. Hey, how's Santa going to land on your roof without any snow on it?
Yeah, it's a frigid 58 over here. Justin, how are you doing?
Very cold. It's been a roller coaster of emotions the last 24 hours from football to hockey. Certainly inside of a glass case of emotion, but nonetheless, we're here. Merry Christmas to Filthy Animal. Happy New Year. And excited to be on Triple J tonight. The last one of the last one of 2022.
Yeah, I'm assuming I'm not on next week, but there doesn't sound like there's going to be a show unless they're going to review the best of.
Yeah, and it's Boxing Day here, which I obviously that's a statutory holiday up here. I won't be on next week either, so
there will be no show next week.
What do you do for Boxing Day?
Well, originally Boxing Day was a British thing. Being Canada was a British colony, back in the day, and I guess we're still somewhat affiliated with them in some.
I know how that goes.
Yeah, but Boxing Day was the day after Christmas. You would donate gifts to the needy.
And that's cool.
Now it has become the national holiday where everybody goes shopping post-Christmas for Boxing Day deals. It's the biggest shopping day of the year.
Isn't that just the way it is? It starts off as a day to give to the needy and ends with I can buy some cheap stuff for myself.
Exactly.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. That's just the way the world works. Well, let's get into some news here to kick things off on what's going to be an interesting episode. I have something of an answer for you fellas to a question that is, where is Matt Riddle? It was recently reported that the reason for Matt Riddle's disappearance from WWE programming, written off with a 6-week recovery period for a storyline injury at the hands of Solo Sikoa, was for him to enter an inpatient drug rehab program after failing at least 2 drug tests. This afternoon, a tweet thread by adult film actress Jordan Max, who was recently in a relationship with Riddle, provided additional confirmation on Riddle's situation, saying, rather than keeping plans for Christmas and New Year's Eve, he's going to rehab. Do you have any idea how confusing and hurtful that is? So, Justin, there's obviously a lot more to this tweet, but as far as the where Riddle may be, it sounds like what Jordan Max is saying is that he is, in fact, in rehab.
Yeah, and this definitely blows up WWE's, or not blows up, but it hurts WWE's attempted plan to try to keep that out of the public. They obviously wrote him off in a kayfabe storyline. WWE has not publicly said anything, in terms of a wellness violation. Is not. So they obviously are. They want to keep this quiet and the context of that tweet by that adult film actress. I know you read a portion of it that where she noted about the rehab, but the tweet was in response to like a fan saying something and showing some pictures, which apparently is allegedly that Matt Riddle has been now hooking up with a different adult film star, and this Jordan Max not too pleased. So it's just a really crazy look. But obviously, first and foremost, you want Matt Riddle to be well. So hopefully, health-wise, that's what's going to be accomplished out of this. All the other stuff you handle in time. But look, he's a babyface that's had a lot that's had rising success for WWE. He's gotten over as a babyface. He has babyface reactions. He's got a cool connection to the crowd. Whatever he's dealing with does not go in line with how you want your baby faces to be perceived on television. So I'll be really curious. Number one, that he gets better, whatever he's dealing with. And then if and when he comes back to TV, what the situation is, how they present him. And again, the question, has WWE changed them not making it public when guys or girls have a A wellness, I don't know, but it's certainly there among many of the questions in this story.
Yeah, Jimmy, is there any type of and I don't know if you work for WWE, so I assume you know everything about how everything works over there. With them being a public company, do they have to give this information? I'm always confused with what they have to disclose versus what they can sweep under the rug.
That's a part that I'm not very familiar. Before, I know in the past that they would disclose. They were very open and honest with any wellness policy violations. Yeah, thank you for helping me out there. I couldn't get the word. I couldn't spit it out there. But as far as what is the wellness policy now, because things have changed so much, especially with the legality to a certain extent for marijuana. And it's no secret that with the Bro 420, they have been exploiting that on television, that aspect of Matt Riddle's life. But maybe this violation is something completely different, or is it kind of like, alcohol is legal, but you can't drive under the influence of alcohol. And maybe this is a situation where you're showing up for work, under the influence, and that could be a different thing altogether. And maybe that's where they drew the line and said, listen, you need to, get this under control. And if you're going to use your 420, do it on your own time and not at work.
Well, Jimmy, that's what's kind of puzzling about this whole thing, is that it's been believed for the last few years that WWE has done away with marijuana being something that they test for and suspend for in the wellness policy. Hence why they kind of were okay leaning into the 420 brand. So that's what then becomes like, okay, like if marijuana is not what, it's like, what are we dealing with here?
See, that's the question. Is it some other substance that there is an issue with? And again, if it is, something to do with the marijuana, is there a provision in the wellness policy that says, no, it's okay to, consume marijuana, but not while not to be under the influence of the 420 while you're working? So we don't know the exact details.
Yeah, there's a million different ways this could be going. And Jimmy, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it might be fine when you're at the hotel, but if you're doing it before the show starts, it might be something different. Again, I don't know. It's all speculation, but I think we all agree, hopefully things get better for Matt Riddle and he comes out on the other end. And I think that to find a positive from it, I think it's good that the company's taking care of him and getting him in rehab if that's something that's necessary, instead of just saying, onto the kick to the curb. Good luck out there, champ. So hopefully he comes through the other side of it okay.
So there is actually, so since that news story is out there, there actually is one more tweet that Jordan Max has posted that it looks like she posted earlier today at 5:35 p.m. I don't know if I guess that's my time, Eastern. But somebody replied to what those tweets we just referenced. And they said, wait, you would rather have him be with you at Christmas than let him go get the help he needs? He dodged a bullet with you, that's for sure. And Jordan Max responds, can you even read? That's not what I'm saying at all. He told me that he quit drugs, and then to find out he's A, with another girl, B, doing those drugs with her, and C, failing drug tests, so he has to go to rehab for it. It is disappointing. So she just kind of elaborates on her.
Wow.
Well, sounds like it's a big tangled mess. And again, hopefully it all works out and everyone ends up happy in time for the holidays. Exactly. But probably not in time for the holidays, but hopefully it all just works out for everybody.
Right.
We have some news, speaking of things working out and possibly coming to an end. It was previously reported that Kenny Omega will become a free agent by February 2023. And according to Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio, this still seems to be the case, with his contract reportedly set to expire at the end of January. However, it was also noted that Omega is advertised for AEW shows in March, so it's possible that time was added to his current deal due to his most recent injuries. Furthermore, Meltzer believes that Omega could be waiting for Matt and Nick Jackson's contracts to expire before he makes a decision about his future. He's saying, I think that they probably all want to expire around the same time, and whatever they do next would be, they could split or make different decisions, but my gut says that they'll probably be a package deal. Last year, the Bucks confirmed that they'd extended their contracts until 2024. Of course, it's possible that these AEW stars have signed new contracts, and that's being kept top secret. That said, Meltzer believes that the news would be out there by now if they had signed on the dotted line. I do not know that there's been a new deal, and I don't think there's been. He reiterated, stating that AEW would probably release the news to the public if they had, similar to what they did with Jericho when he extended his deal. Jimmy, this, assuming Kenny Omega is waiting for the Young Bucks and their deal to expire, I would assume that would make them all more valuable, because if they all walked, that would be basically gutting the heart of what started AEW.
Exactly, and they've obviously developed a relationship, working together and working for the same goals. Especially, all three of them being EVPs, executive vice presidents of the company, and having other roles other than just in-ring talent and top in-ring talent for that company as well. So, I could see them maybe holding. I don't know if this is a power play. Maybe a little bit of everything, but like you said, as a package deal, I think they're more valuable than individually, especially with the threat of possibly leaving AEW, and they could, command top dollar that way. And the other question is, now that they've had the taste of being executive vice presidents at AEW, if they were, I'm just saying, speculation is, if they were to entertain offers from WWE, I can't see them having a position anywhere close to similar to that with them. So, You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, hey, we can make a little bit of a power play, but at the same time, this might be the place where we stay, as opposed to, trying to split and, create their own brand. I don't know if this is the right time for something like that.
It is a fascinating test on, do you want control as an EVP or do you want more money? Because I think that would be what it comes down to, Justin, if that was the game they were playing.
Sorry, or see a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Well, and the other question is, like, are they still satisfied with their roles as EVP? Do they like being in the office? Do they like having to? I mean, do they have the same input they had on day one when Dynamite launched, or has Tony Khan took more? There's so many things that are unknown that would play into their decision making. I do agree, even though when you transcribe Meltzer, it's like a roundabout way to get to the point. But I do believe ultimately what he said, which is, I think we would probably know, and there would have been a release or a press release that had some new. They're locked down in the foundation of the company for another 5 years. So I don't think anything. I do think that there's potential somewhere in the next whatever time span for the three of them to have their current deals run up and need new ones to be done. I would believe that maybe around 2024 would be an ideal, a possible time, which makes 2024 all the more fascinating again in the wrestling world of free agency. But I agree. I think they would remain a package deal, whether they stay, whether they remain a package deal if they're going to go elsewhere, whether that's WWE, Japan, wherever. I think they probably realize that their brand is best if the three of them stay together. It's good. I think a lot of it might also just be taking the temperature of AEW over the next year. Obviously, Cody Rhodes is gone, and obviously got derailed with injury, but looked like he was having a great time in his return to WWE, and will probably be back soon. Obviously, the CM Punk chaos is well documented. Looks like he's done. So I think, how's the next year in AEW go? How does the growth feel? Do they get a new big TV deal in the next year or two? Does that look like it's on the horizon for Dynamite, based upon Dynamite's performance, which, depending on who you ask and what metric you look at, some would say, oh yeah, they're going to be lining options up. Other people would tell you, I don't know what they're going to get. So I think a lot of things to watch for in 2023. But I do agree ultimately that these three make decisions all together.
You make the point about CM Punk, and that to me is something that makes Meltzer sound more accurate. I think with everything that's happened with CM Punk, had these guys signed something that would make them there keep them there longer, that would be a big talking point right now. Someone would have said, hey, with everything that's going on, guess who just signed new contracts? But since no one's talking about that, I don't think. But it is very LeBron James of them. If you think back in the old 90s, it was like teams were teams, and if you moved, you moved. But LeBron James was the guy that was like, everywhere I go, I'm going to have my team around me. The elite
Yeah.
seems very similar. I mean, LeBron has different teams around him, but he's very, let me get my friends and my guys to play with me.
This generation's NWO kind of thing,
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, if Omega and the Bucks, and I do feel like WWE is more of a possibility and more, there would be a better chance of it working out for all parties now than when Vince was running things just on philosophies, let alone. But I almost feel like if you're the Bucks and you're Kenny and if you were going to vacate a spot where you're the bigger fish in a little bit smaller pond and you get to be EVPs and whatever perks come with that, I almost feel like you would only go to WWE unless you got some kind of a guarantee. And I don't just mean guarantee in a financial figure, but like you had heavy input on the booking for the first X amount of months or something. And I don't know, but would Triple H give that? Would he see the value in do I need these three guys who are all in their late 30s, pushing 40? Do I need them? They're in phenomenal shape, obviously. So 40 is a lot younger than what it used to be in the business. But again, more things that would have to be taken into consideration. It's like they're not going to go and probably get the money they're making now. They're not going to be able to be champions of NXT and get that. You know what I mean?
Right. But that's the thing. I mean, if they're making, I don't know what they're making at all or what they would make. But if Tony's paying him $1 million a year, but Triple H is going to pay him $3 million a year, I might be worth being lower on the totem pole for an extra $2 million a year.
But are you going to pay somebody $3 million a year who's going to be lower in the total? Who's going to be middle of the card? I mean, $3 million a year. We're talking main event, solidified main event.
I'm just throwing numbers out. I don't know.
I know.
But someone who wants some numbers thrown her way is Sasha Banks, who posted a GIF online that features a current AEW personality, sparking fan speculation. Since walking out of WWE, she's dropped teases on what she will do next. She teased a potential showdown with current IWGP Women's Champion Kairi, and it has since been reported that Banks is scheduled to appear at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom event on January 4th. And fans are now wondering if the third WWE Women's Grand Slam champion has dropped another hint. The GIF is a Ric Flair promo when he was in NWA. And as the camera pans out, AEW personality Tony Schiavone is shown as the one interviewing Flair. This is also added to the speculation because New Japan Pro Wrestling has a working relationship with AEW and all that good stuff. And of course, Saraya is going to have a mystery partner in next year for a tag team match on January 11th. Everyone's wondering what's happening next. Justin, I think Sasha Banks just knows how to play the game. What say you?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. She knows right now that there's a huge guessing game, and look, that's a fire that you don't mind. Throw some gasoline on that fire because the hotter that fire gets, this is your, I'm not gonna say her only time, but right now it's not a guarantee of how many times in the business you get a chance to have this kind of leverage. So throw some gasoline on the fire, get people buzzing, get people guessing. It's supposed to then make the pop that much bigger when you do show up wherever you show up. I don't blame her for doing what she's doing. I would have several more of these tweets in the draft folder lined up, ready to go.
Jimmy, if I held your feet to the fire, what's next for Sasha Banks long term? Is it New Japan? Is it AEW? Is it back in WWE? Is it just sticking to Hollywood?
I think it's going to be a little bit of everything. I know that once you get a taste of the Hollywood, as you could tell any of the former and current wrestlers who have participated in doing, whether it's a movie or a TV show, they love doing it and they want to go back and do some more. But like you said, if you held my feet to the fire, again, they would get hot because this is hard to figure out. She's playing, like you said, playing the game very well. And, as Justin said, strike while the iron is hot. And it's really hot for Sasha Banks right now. There's a lot of talk about her. There's a lot of speculation about where she's going to end up. She's dropping some hints. Like, everybody's talking about the Tony Schiavone part of that they were showing. But at the same time, there was the NWA World Champion. I don't know if, doing something at NWA for Billy Corgan is going to be enough money for her. But again, It's all a guessing game right now, and she's doing a great job of making herself relevant without being on any television show right now, wrestling television show, that is.
And if she's got leverage, who's to say? Just looking at all the different possibilities, who's to say? She gets to wrestle in New Japan at the start of January. She's maybe, who's to say she didn't work that out to be able to do that, to let this guessing game happen, to make it seem like WWE is the furthest thing from possibility, and then boom, what's 4 weeks later? The Royal
Rumble.
And that place will go nuts.
It'll go banana.
Yes.
Banana.
Yeah, that's one of the themes that'll hit that would get the biggest reaction, I think, of the night, outside of not counting The Rock. That doesn't feel like it's fair. But anyone who's a regular in pro wrestling, I think should get one of the biggest reactions.
Oh yeah.
But before we get into the show, we'll chat about the show. Thank you again, as always, everyone listening on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, everyone who is watching the show on YouTube afterwards. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Also want to give a shout out on Twitter to @PaulApexSC, saying it's 4 a.m. where he watches, but he will be listening tomorrow if you can't keep it up today. So thank you so much, Paul. Also, thank you to the chat. We got David, we got Ricky, we got Adam, we got Iron Meds and Baby Ice and Tommy O and Bernie and Dylan Matthews, the Jeff King, Justine, and Brian and George and everyone else. Ethan Cruz, thank you so much for joining us live. Let's get into this show because it is a doozy of an episode. We start. It's going to be hard to break down, guys, so just bear with me a little bit. A lot of overlap on this episode. We get Roman Reigns with a message saying that Kevin Owens is going to need more than John Cena, and now he's going to take out his anger on the entire Raw locker room to punish KO. And they're taking out everyone, starting with Ali. Now, Justin, of course, we see this happen throughout the night, but for now, take me back to the very beginning of this show and just what's going through your mind as you see the Bloodline go into war with Raw.
It sets a great tone. Roman Reigns is the world champion of both brands. He has both world titles, so he essentially runs both, and he's the mob boss. I love him, in his high upon his throne somewhere where we don't even know. He declares war, and then there's his deputies out there just causing havoc, and a nice little production touch. I appreciated. I like then when we start seeing as we keep going to the rest of the Bloodline attacking everybody. I like it was them filming it. First off, it's just a little bit of a logic of that they were filming like kind of selfie style with like a selfie stick that you don't have WWE's production there all well lit and well boom mics and everything to see this gang kind of behavior and watch out, Elias, they're coming behind you. So nice touch that it's the Bloodline filming it, and it also just gives off more of an arrogant, dangerous kind of gang feel, like that they're so brazen and so proud of their behavior. They're filming it themselves. It had just a certain authenticity to it that we don't see. That was something different for WWE's production, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, Jimmy, I said last week they're starting to remind me a bit of the NWO, and as I was watching this, I was waiting for Ali to get lawn darted into something.
Yeah, no kidding, and that's a good point that Justin brought up about the filming it themselves. But the other thing too is starting off the show this way. You want to start off hot and get the crowd and get the audience, especially at home, interested in what's going on. And they thought they did that very well. And watching Roman Reigns speaking in his locker room, talking about how he's declaring war on Raw right now. That smug arrogantness that he is exuding right now, he is taking it to another level. He's taking it to another notch. I mean, yes, I get that people want to cheer a little bit the Bloodline. They're kind of like behind them. They're being entertained by him. But at the same time, you're watching Roman Reigns and you're treating it like, man, what an arrogant prick. You know what I mean? And he's doing a wonderful job at it. And I know people complain, he's not wrestling enough on television. He doesn't have to.
I agree completely. I think I loved this. I love that he didn't come out. I mean, I would have liked to see him come out because I'm a fan, but I think that it's good. I will say, if I'm nitpicking, I'm okay with this, but I got to nitpick it a little bit. It was clearly the locker room from SmackDown, and they clearly recorded it on Friday before the show or whatever. They clearly did all those together because that background was so it stood out so much. It was a very specific background, but I'm fine with it. But I was like, someone taped that last week. But it all worked out. We continue on, and Akira Tozawa and the Street Profits take on Judgment Day. During the match, the Bloodline attacks Chase U as they continue this overarching story. In the match, Dom's wearing sunglasses because of the mist to his eyes, and it's Akira who throws the liquid from the red cups into Dom's eyes to set up the win. Jimmy, of course, we're going to get another. This show's fast. We're going to talk about what happens right after this, but Akira gets a win. It looks like the eyes of Dom are still messed up, and still the Bloodline is wreaking havoc. So much is happening all at once.
Yeah, a lot was happening. My only critique of the finish was, we've gotten to the point now where guys are kicking out of everything from stuffed pile drivers to twisting, burning 450 hammer Phoenix splashes and other people's finishes. When the finish used to be protected so much, but there are so many matches now ending with that surprise roll up. And when you do the surprise roll up too often, it's not so much a surprise anymore. It hurts more than the old, hey, he caught him off guard kind of thing. And that's the only thing I didn't like about this finish. And yeah, like you said, the stuff to Dom's eyes, that also makes me wonder what is in those red cups that would sting his eyes so bad,
Well, I was gonna say the Phoenix 450 splash is old news. Now it's the red Solo Cup splash.
There you go.
But Justin, again, I don't know if there's a whole lot to take from this other than clearly the eyes of Dom are still messed up. And again, before getting into the second act of this match, I guess Street Profits getting the win.
Yeah, I mean, I like all the different, factions and all the storylines all intersecting. I like the continuity of sticking with and selling Dom's eyes. And yeah, I mean, it's funny, they showed a different angle in a slow motion replay of Tozawa throwing the cup, and I think Graves at the same time is like, "What's in that cup? It's clearly not water, even though it clearly looks like water." So I don't know if they're trying to sell it as like, oh, my eyes burn because some gin and some gin just got thrown. I don't know what Tozawa's supposed to be drinking, but I'm going to give a shout out to the shirts that Dom and Rio were wearing, the Happy Holidays from the Judgment Day Christmas card shirt, top notch.
Yes, those are those kind of shirts that I think if you had them and then wore them like in a few years, it would be the coolest throwback shirt. I was thinking they should at least like color the stuff they're putting in the cups going forward, so it feels like, because it was so clearly water when he was doing it, but whatever, it's not a big deal. After the match, what I love is Rhea Ripley not happy about what happened. She goes and she wants to pick a fight with Akira Tozawa, and then after the Street Profits, who are supposed to be Tozawa's friends, talk him into it, we get an intergender match. I think the first one that, at least in a long time, I guess since Reggie was doing them. But Profits take out the Judgment Day outside, but after Akira misses the senton, Rhea hits the Riptide and gets the win. Justin, this was, I'm sure people on social media divided about this. I think if you're going to do an intergender match, this one came across pretty well, though. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree. I think I would not. I'd be careful when picking my spots of having Rhea do intergender or anybody do an intergender. But I thought they executed this one okay. You have, obviously, Tozawa is smaller in physical stature, so I could get with that. It was a great moment when she body slammed Gallows weeks ago, but don't put her in a don't give me an intergender match with her and Gallows, so Gallows is legit bigger than her. So Tozawa worked. Tozawa was also somebody who, he was running around to the 24/7 title thing for so long. They're just starting to like get him out of that, and so the crowd's cheering with him because he's getting the rub, the Profits, but he still has that. He still hasn't shed all the goofiness off of him. So he was just kind of like the right opponent. So I think this was a good job to, again, highlight her Give us the Raw audience something we don't normally see on Raw, which is an intergender match. Somebody can stat boy Tona Reality and find when the last one of those were. I'd imagine we're going back to the China days probably. So all in all, I was okay with how they did it. I just would not, if it was deemed a success, and if social media and everything looks like it's a success, it's got good numbers, great. Take that, but don't take that as an indication of, we got to start booking Rhea and intergender matches more often, because I think that'll get sour quick.
Yeah, I think you also just got to be careful with the optics of, like, if you had, a Braun Strowman sitting on someone punching them in the face, it's gonna just, the optics aren't going to be very good. For that. But in this case, Jimmy, what are your thoughts? Have you ever been involved in an intergender match or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of China, I was involved with one with her and Jeff Jarrett involving the Intercontinental Championship, and it was one of those, or was it Chris Jericho? Oh my goodness, it was so long ago.
I was going to say it could be either one of those.
Yeah, I think it was Jericho. And it was one of those deals where after the match, neither one of them took the title. Long story short, I had to take the Intercontinental Championship to the next town because it was one of those deals where, they both were pinned at the same time. So it was anyways.
Yeah.
But for tonight's intergender match, I love the way they protected Tozawa anyways. Yes, there was the size difference where Rhea looked bigger than him, but at the same time, you saw that Tozawa was mentally challenged, where he wanted to say, I want to punch her, but I can't bring myself to hitting a woman, kind of thing. So they protected him in that sense too. So I thought it was a nice reintroduction of this. And like Justin said, as long as they don't do it too often, like I said earlier, when you start doing the roll-up finish and referee distractions too often, then they start to mean nothing.
I think because I do like they did get, I believe, some offense in, but it was always like reversals and things. It wasn't again like
it was wrestling moves. It wasn't like physical punching and kicking and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so very cool. I mean, she gets another big win. Rhea Ripley, I feel like she's just destined for championship. She's incredible. We get Scrap Daddy at Adam Pearce. He's calling back Paul Heyman, who's not answering his phone calls. And speaking of not answering, Pearce isn't answering the questions about Bobby Lashley, but he says he does believe he'll be back. Speaking of coming back, MVP is back, but something's happening in the loading dock. And after we come back from break, we get Cedric Alexander and Dolph Ziggler saying that the Bloodline was the one who attacked them. Justin, what I love about this is the mix of types of people who have been attacked backstage at this point. You've got the good guys, you've got bad guys, you've got cocky people, you've got more quiet people. It gives that feeling of no one's safe from the Bloodline.
No, absolutely. And again, for the Bloodline, they don't dress with the baby faces, they don't dress with the heels. They dress in the Bloodline exclusive VIP locker room. Yeah, everybody should be fair game. There is no alliance with anybody else unless you are part of the Bloodline.
And Jimmy, this is where, of course, we hear about Bobby Lashley probably coming back. MVP shows up. And of course, everyone's wondering, are we getting the Hurt Business again?
Hey, you never know. We've seen the return of other teams and other factions, so why not? I mean, will he associate himself? It's hard to tell because, when he was wrestling Seth Rollins last week, who was the babyface, who was the heel? It was kind of like up in the air. You could have made a case for either one of them. But so, maybe Bobby does take a little bit of a more heel-ish approach as opposed to being like a complete heel, but joining the Hurt Business, feeling that maybe aligning himself with someone like an MVP could help him more than hurt him.
And I know that we have a lot of factions. We have Judgment Day, we have the Bloodline. We have some babyface alliances. Obviously with Street Profits and Tozawa and whatever. But I would almost say if we're gonna put a fresh coat of paint on the Hurt Business, I don't know, as much as I love Shelton Benjamin and I think he should be used more, I don't know if you need to put him and Cedric and on there. I mean, I think if you're going to redo what you're going to call the Hurt Business, I would have MVP do with the new polish of Bobby Lashley and Omos. I think just the visual of those two, because of their Bobby, who's 6'4" and just a genetic freak, and then Omos, who is 7'4". I think that with MVP, wheeling and dealing between them, I think that would be more impactful than having more bodies and having Shelton and Cedric and whoever else they might otherwise put. That would be my booking if I get the pin.
Real Brothers of Destruction vibes there. Like, you don't know which one you want in the ring at any given time. They're both just so dominant. And, if they did have Hurt Business, like you said, Justin, there's a lot of groups, but I imagine them all in the Rumble, and you got some gnarly groups. I mean, Judgment Day, Imperium, Brawlin' Brutes, Hurt Business, Bloodline. I mean, every one of them feel like they could just wreck everybody in the ring at the same time. So from a Rumble standpoint, I'm here for it. I want to see them all go at it. I think that'd be really fun. But we'll see. We get some tag teams that, speaking of team, I forgot to mention the OC is another team that would be in there. But we get the OC versus the Alpha Academy. Pretty straightforward with the OC getting the win here. And when it's time for them to celebrate, the Bloodline come out and take out the OC. And we go to commercial as Pierce arrives with security. They cut a little promo and head back to the locker room. But AJ Styles attacks Sammy, and we get Sammy and AJ later tonight. Justin, I don't know if you caught this. I'm guessing you did because you watch this kind of stuff. I feel like the crowd wants to cheer Alpha Academy. They were cheering for Otis. They popped when he got tagged in. Is it time to start presenting the Alpha Academy a little differently?
Yeah, we're probably coming around that corner, right? Because I feel like they have gone, I don't know how many months it is off the top of my head, but it's been a significantly long time, relatively speaking to today's WWE with the amount of content. It's been a long time that Alpha Academy has been featured regularly and with heels. And I feel like the shtick has kind of ran its course to be booed, and it has now gone into that territory that it often does, where, okay, you took your lumps, you paid your dues, you got your booze. Now everybody's just kind of like really just enjoying you. You're just that entertaining. And that's a common thing. And I do feel like it might be worthwhile to consider, especially again, we're getting ready to head into Rumble and Mania season. These are the big shows where you have you have a smarter, more diehard fan base that travels more. Certainly Mania weekend, certainly the night after Mania. What's supposed to be booed is cheered. What's supposed to be cheered is booed. So I do think we're probably entering in a time where, even though maybe let's put a new spin. Don't take them off TV because you got something clearly. The people care about them, but it might be time to let them turn into a babyface tag team, or you split them. But I don't think you do because I think they work so well together. It's so Chris Farley, David Spade is how I always kind of compare those two.
Yeah. The only thing, though, is it's amazing that the crowd is still behind them despite all they haven't. When was the last time they won an actual tag team match?
And that's the brilliance of it.
Yeah. It's amazing how they're still over despite the fact that they haven't won a tag team match in I don't know how long. And I want to say maybe close to 6-8 months, something like that. But it's just – I think you're right, Jess. I think this team is destined to become kind of like Chad Gable is reminding me a little bit of a young Kurt Angle. Right? He has that ability to be the shooter guy in the ring, but at the same time, I could see him in the back with a guitar singing Jimmy Crack Corn and I Don't Care. I've won Olympic gold or I've won NCAA gold or whatever the case may be.
Well, speaking of gold, we get a sit down with the women's champion Bianca Belair alongside Alexa Bliss, and Alexa Bliss kind of explains everything that's happened to her and wraps it up in a way that sort of makes sense, actually, before smashing Bianca over the head. Justin, line of the night, I thought, was Alexa Bliss saying to Bianca Belair, "Bray's not a threat. I am." And I personally love, I've said it before, it's what I love about the Triple H era, is that they don't just pretend things didn't happen. And I like that she actually said, look, I went to therapy. It made me feel this way. I was with Bray. This did this to me. This is why I'm here now, as opposed to just going, forget about all that.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I also want to note, and it could be found in this segment. I think it could be found later when we have Theory and Rollins on the mic. It does feel like I'd love to, in an informal on-air interview, ask some of the talent what the process is these days about promos. Obviously, this sit down, it's pre-tape, so you can do as many takes you need until you hit the notes the perfect way. But even out there live later with Rollins and Theory, there were just some really good lines, some really good sound bites, and so I wonder, like, are we still scripting as heavily as we understand that they once were? Are we back to bullet points and letting the guys and girls kind of fill in the gaps? I don't know, but whatever it is, it's coming off a lot better. I feel like promo wise, and yeah, I thought everything you said about Alexa, and then also just because we've been talking each week about how you got to watch those little Easter eggs and little things in the background. If you actually go back and watch when Bianca is on the ground having been hit by the flowers in the vase, just peeking around the back of Bianca's chair is a lily. She's just looking.
And somewhere Raj celebrated that Lily was pulling all the strings this whole time. We get to an interesting part of the show, and I'm very excited and very curious to see what you guys say about this little section. And it was The Miz versus Dexter Lumis in a ladder match. And Jimmy, I hate to say it, I hate to point this kind of stuff out, but I got to do it. This was almost awkwardly quiet from the crowd. The crowd felt like they could not care less about this match. And I don't know if I've ever heard a crowd this quiet during a ladder match.
No, I definitely agree with you. I have the same thing written down here. I said, Miz versus Loomis, winner take all ladder match, crowd quiet. Don't seem to be into it. That's exactly what I wrote down. That tells you everything you need to know. The live crowd, you're there to entertain them and get them going. They are not interested. I don't know if it was the match itself, because ladder matches generally get people, okay, let's see what's going to happen here. There were a couple of times during the match where they chanted for tables and stuff like that. But at the same time,
Miz shut him down, teasing the tables, and he put him back under the ring.
Right.
I was going to say, that's the genius of the Miz, by the way.
Well, it definitely got him some heat there. But again, it just, for some reason, the crowd was not buying into this. And I wish I could explain it better, but they're not buying this rivalry at all.
This is what it feels like, and I agree. It feels like the people know to not like the Miz because they've had 15 years to know that. It doesn't feel like they know why they should be liking Dexter Lumis. They know not to like the Miz, but why like him. And yeah, this is the thing that's got. This is a match that's been promoted. It's got 4 or 5 months of history and build and twists and turns to the story. And yeah, they just, other than a few big spots with some weapons. So I really think that has to. I think, again, Dexter Lumis, who has got such a look. This guy is in phenomenal shape, physique, and then the look with the tattoos and the gloves and the way he crawls and the moves around, how fast he moves. He's a worthwhile talent. But I think there needs to be a rethinking of, okay, do we want him to be a babyface, or is Johnny Gargano being his just kind of buddy floating around out there? Like, something needs to be redone there. Don't get rid of Dexter Lumis. I'm not saying send him back to NXT. I'm not saying that. I think he's a worthwhile guy to have a spot on the roster. But there's something here with the presentation, and if you've given the fans this much backstory and they're still not hooking on, that tells you something right there.
Yeah, and this was I agree with everything you just said, Justin, because I like Lumis. I kind of agree with the crowd. I feel like I don't really know where to go with this rivalry. And I should say, too, this crowd was active. It wasn't like this was just a dead crowd all night and you go, okay, something was up with the crowd. It was, they were chanting for Sami Zayn when he was saying, they want to see us talk, and everyone cheers for him. Later in the night, Seth Rollins has him eaten out of his hands. The crowd was active. It was just this match just emptied out. And then I don't know, Justin, I'll double back to you on this. Bronson Reed debuts. I'm a huge Bronson Reed fan. Felt like that was flat, but I don't know if that's his fault at this point. I feel like the crowd was kind of like checked out at this point.
Well, first of all, I agree. I am a Bronson Reed fan. This guy is an impressive, agile big man. He is He is a modern take on a Vader, on a Bam Bam Bigelow. Can do some really cool things in the ring. That said, you have him debut cold in a match that we just spent minutes on that people seem checked out on, attacking a guy who, as I just said, I don't think the crowd's not quite sure why they're supposed to be cheering him. And then, oh, by the way, it's not like Bronson Reed carried the NXT world title and flag for all this great time. He was a mid-card title winner in NXT. And then was let go. I don't remember which round of cuts, but it's been a while. So I mean, he's not somebody. And this is something to watch. Bronson Reed. Some of the ladies in Damage Control. Who's Candice LeRae. Tegan Knox. There's so many other guys and girls who have been brought to Raw or SmackDown in the last 5-6 months, who had never been on Raw or SmackDown before, who had only ever been on NXT TV. And I'm not saying that it's not going to work out for some of them, and some of them have gone on and are working out. But it's something really close to watch that, when you are in NXT getting over, it's a very intimate, hardcore environment. It is a very intimate. I mean, you are within just a few feet of the talent, pretty much, whether they're at Full Sail, whether they're at the Performance Center now. It's just the way it's set up. It's a studio wrestling TV kind of feel. It's a different story to get over with those same people every week than having to go to a different town in front of 10,000 people that you have different, some it's more casual or whatever. It's a different thing to connect with them. So, I think that's going to be something that Bronson Reed and a lot of others we're going to have to continue to watch is, they got over and looked great in the NXT environment, but that's not always what Raw and SmackDown's about.
No, and to expand on that too, is you're watching on television and the audience that watches Raw and SmackDown is a lot larger than the audience that watches NXT. And you talk about the hardcore audience. So there were probably a lot of individuals watching the show tonight that said, "Who is this guy?" and are not very familiar with them. And yes, the if you're watching on television, the announcers will tell you who he is and give you a little bit of backstory. But let's say there's somebody there live and they're watching, they're going, "Hey, I don't recall this guy. Who is this guy?" So
it seems harder to come out like that too as a heel and get the boot, because there's so much of it. Well, what's he doing? As opposed to, if he saved somebody, then you're like, "Yay, this guy saved my friend or the person I'm a fan of," as opposed to the person who, "Oh, well, he just attacked someone." But why? What's this all about?
Well, and Jack, to that point, I get that Dexter Lumis is supposed to be like this ticking time bomb who just doesn't stop. We thought he's dead and buried under the tables and ladders and outside, and then he gets back up and he, stops the Miz again. So I get that the big heater that comes in and Bronson Reed needs to take out Dexter Lumis, but I almost wonder, again, we have the luxury of armchair quarterbacking this, having seen how it went off and got executed. But now looking back in hindsight, I wonder, are you better off doing it the way you did, or do you bury, or when I say bury, I don't mean bury in the wrestling terms, I mean physically put things on top. Do you bury Dexter Lumis underneath of a million ladders, a million things to incapacitate him? Have the Miz, who of course is the dashly heel, go up and steal this money back? Do you have a Johnny Gargano who is a little more sympathetic, has gotten a little more over with the fans? Do you have him try to jump back in because he's already just got beat up by the Miz a minute ago? Do you have him try to jump back in, try to climb up a ladder and stop it? And is that when Bronson Reed comes in? Does Bronson Reed destroy Johnny Gargano? And does he get a little more heat because Johnny Gargano's got a little bit more favor with the fans? I don't know. It might have been the same thing. Again, we had the luxury of watching it and then critiquing it after the fact. On paper, they did the best they could. But that's, again, all things to consider moving forward.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Hopefully things turn around for him. AJ Styles versus Sami Zayn happens, and it's a good one, as you would expect. Solo shows up and hits AJ with the spike, allowing Sami to get the win, and Pierce is upset about it. Jimmy, it feels like we're starting to build a little bit of a authority figure trying to stop bad guys from being bad guys with Adam Pierce.
Yeah, has it been? I don't recall if there was an official announcement of Adam Pierce being a authority figure, as in GM or whatever the case may be, or whatever his title is. It almost like naturally evolved. He just comes out and he's making the decisions. Now he's making the matches. He's making the suspensions, the firings from last week, and then and taking it back on social media and stuff like that. But I like more the fact that we're building a rivalry here between these two factions that is building and is continuing to build. It's just a matter of how I used this reference recently in one of my rants where it's like you're throwing little curveballs, which is good because you're throwing, off pitches, but it's what you follow up with next. It's always what you follow up with, what comes next, and how do you advance and how do you elevate this rivalry. And I like where it's going so far between these two factions.
It's Justin, it's very I always say one of the things that WWE has done so well with Roman Reigns is, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a second, even more so, but I can imagine AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns. I would pay money to see that. But of course, they're heating up KO for the same thing. Seth Rollins. I'm always blown away by the fact that this guy's been crushing people for 2 years, and they still got 3 or 4 people all could get shots to the next premium live event. And I'd go, that makes sense.
Yeah, and back to what we said earlier, that's why you don't have Roman Reigns wrestle all the time. You preserve the must-see matchups and maybe this person's a challenger. I like what was accomplished here. I agree. I mean, I think when you just say the sentence, Sami Zayn beat AJ Styles on Monday Night Raw, that's a big deal. Again, for a guy who, again, I go back to you go a year ago. A year ago, if you ask me, I'm wondering if he's somebody you lump into the next round of unfortunate cuts for budget purposes, just because of how long he's been with the company and what is he doing, how's he being used, and he's completely reinvented himself. He's elevated himself to, as I said on a previous episode of our podcast, I certainly could buy into him being a challenger to Roman Reigns somewhere down the line. Don't necessarily think he's going to beat him, but it would be dramatic, interesting TV. So, yeah, there's a lot here. And to the Adam Pearce thing, yeah, they've never deemed him as any title. They just say WWE official. They keep it vague, which is fine. I guess I understand because it's nice to have somebody who you can just throw in and throw out that can speak for the office, so to speak, if the SS match is happening or no, it's not, or even in the drastic case, we've got to fire you. It's a hard thing to deal with because, they stumbled upon gold 24, 25 years ago, just making Vince who was the real authority figure and got such magical TV out of it with him and Austin and him and so many other baby faces. And then, of course, Bischoff and WCW doing it, and it just became and it's so overdone. And then it's like when the audience knows who the real decision makers are, and the audience knows that the real decision maker is right behind that curtain. And oh, by the way, now the real decision maker is actually a former wrestler. It makes it hard for, I think, the audience subconsciously, even if they don't say all the things I'm saying now, to buy into this person as real authority that we got to respect.
Maybe the Paul that he was talking to on the phone wasn't Heyman. Maybe it was a different Paul. Oh, I don't know.
That could be interesting. I think the more you have, to Justin's point, I think the more you have Triple H or anyone near TV, the more you just remember, oh, well, Adam Pearce isn't the guy.
Well, and the other thing too is it's hard to have and I know Adam Pearce actually did have a match a couple years, somewhere in the last 2 years of his authority. And he's a former wrestler, of course, and he's still it's hard to have an authority figure. If you have an authority figure, you expect them to be able to be involved in payoffs. Now Pearce is a rare authority figure who's not a heel. But it's hard. If you're gonna have an authority figure, it's you gotta eventually figure they got to be able to take bumps and be involved in payoffs and what have you. And so that's the other kind of weird thing is he's not really ever involved in payoffs. He's just kind of there. He agitates some people. They get in his face, but then it just kind of goes away. It's kind of well, what's the point?
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point. I guess maybe he needs some teeth, something to show that you can't mess with him. Because right now, too, people kind of walk all over him. Even Bobby Lashley got fired. He's like, it'll work out.
We need the anonymous GM to come back.
Exactly.
Yes. I want the celebrity just back up. I want Jeremy Piven to come back and be,
which is great material. That whole portion of Raw history is great to read, and I give the promo to Brian Gewirtz. Go read his book. Former head writer, and he's got some fascinating things to talk about in that whole era of the celebrity GMs and the anonymous GM.
What a wild time that was. We get Seth frickin' Rollins coming out and says that this isn't Roman Reigns' show. It's Seth Rollins' show. So Theory comes out, says he's taken the torch, but Rollins says Theory isn't on his level. They trade comments back and forth until the Usos come out, and Theory abandons Rollins, and Rollins gets beat up until KO comes out. And later in tonight, KO and Rollins will team up to take on the Usos. I just wanted to comment on this promo section because Justin LaBar, I thought, obviously, Seth Rollins is great. I felt like this is one of Theory's better outings.
I agree. You know, to what I said earlier, asking about how the promos are being done, I thought this was a great delivery by both guys, but especially Theory. And I thought Rollins he kind of even said it in character. He said, you know, you're growing up, kid. You know, you're not taking selfies anymore. You're not, you know, I forget how he worded it. If you're, he was referencing the Vince, but without saying Vince, saying like you're the father's favorite or whatever he said. Like it really did feel like babyface Seth Rollins, the veteran, validating and highlighting and saying Austin Theory is worthwhile to be champion. Austin Theory is worthwhile my time to be fighting him. But oh, by the way, it's just going to kind of be a gut check because you still, even though you're champion, you're still not me. And then of course Theory, you know, really firing back and kind of trying to degrade and downgrade, I should say, Seth Rollins, whether it's the least successful Shield member or
third best,
or you fumble the ball. So yeah, I mean, really kind of juiced up and heated up this match that's going to be in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Jimmy, and again, Seth Rollins is great. He always knocks it out of the park, though. But with Theory, what I love too is, for as mean as he was still kind of saying that Rollins is great. Like he was saying, I'm going to take the torch from your legendary hands or whatever. I can't remember the exact line, but just like he was actually calling him a legend in that case, which I always think is a very clever thing to do when you can make something Paul Heyman does a lot, where he'll basically talk about how great the other person is, but they're not great enough to beat them. And I think that's such a great thing to do to build up a match, as opposed to saying you're a loser.
Right. Absolutely. Because if you beat up someone who's a loser, if you end up winning the match, then who have you beaten? It makes you look bad if you lose to this loser, obviously. But at the same time, you're trying to build the guy up, like, you know, calling Seth a legend and that sort of stuff, and saying you may be great, but I'm going to show you that I'm going to be greater.
Yeah.
See that he's putting the other guy over, but he's putting himself over more.
I also love that he bailed out when the Usos came. Just
the way he did it. It was it was just very well done. Very good at making me hate the guy. Just chef's kiss. Speaking of chef's kiss, we got Bayley versus Becky Lynch going in the I can't believe we're getting this on free TV category. They have their match, but it comes down to damage control, distracting the man, and Bayley getting the win. Jimmy, this one's probably not over though. No, definitely not over. And they had a good match. It's definitely wanted to see more. That's the thing. And you know, and how long has it been since they met each other in the ring? I think they mentioned 4 years or something like that. It's 4 years. Yeah. They're I hate to put it this way, but their chemistry together is just awesome. They just, when two people just gel together inside the ring and they can tell a good story and they can tell a good match and have good psychology and make sense of what they're doing. That's what these ladies did tonight. They had a hell of a match, I thought. To continue this storyline further, the right person won under the right circumstances. Even though I'm getting a little bit tired of all these ref distraction finishes, there's just too many of them happening. And it's not me saying because I'm a former official myself. I'm just saying, again, along the lines of, if it happens so much, the heat's going to the wrong people. It ends up, if there are too many ref distractions, then people will start blaming the referees as opposed to blaming the heels for being, creative enough to distract the referee. The heat's going on the wrong person sometimes. And that's what I'm worried about. That
said, Jimmy, though, I feel like it gives the ref some credibility not to be a total buffoon, to see the other two ladies at damage control are getting ready to cause problems. Right. And he just says, get out of here.
No, I do get that, but again, it's happening too much with the ref distractions. You can't keep doing it. See, because you think back to earlier in the night. Now there was another ref distraction or two, if I'm not mistaken. So you know what I mean? It's just it's all in how it's done to put the heat on the right person. That's all.
It's I think a lot of it is just because the reason it's happening so often is because there are so many groups, so many stables and when you have a stable, that's just sort of the go-to way to have them win is to have someone in the stable outnumber them. And
it's what AEW runs into. AEW is everybody is in a faction, everybody's associated. It's gang warfare, and it's what AEW runs into every single week. They have to get everybody featured. And they don't even really try to act like there's DQs. Just
and not only that, after every match there's always an aftermath.
Right.
Match,
and not Arda and Jimmy.
Exactly. From back in the day. And the other thing, and I talked about this before, is every match that goes to commercial break, it has to be after a bump to the outside.
Yeah.
It's just too formulaic.
You can definitely tell. I can feel it now. You get the feeling when they go outside, like, oh, this is the commercial.
I get see, and when you're going to a commercial break, you want to entice people to come back. And will they make it back in the ring? Is just not that enticing.
Yeah.
So we get to the main event. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. They first off. They're backstage, speaking of not forgetting things, reminiscing about Rollins trying to take Kevin Owens' WrestleMania spot, which was fun. We get the match, and the OC kind of take the Bloodline out of the equation. Theory takes Rollins out of the equation, but KO is able to get the win on his own. And then we get a tease of Sammy and KO before Sammy decides not to bail out. Justin, if I'm being the old school kind of guy, shouldn't Seth Rollins have gotten the win in his hometown?
No, I'm sure once the cameras went off, Seth did something great. Probably Becky. I'm just guessing. I'm sure it's documented already on the internet. He and Becky do something, whatever. But no, you got Kevin Owens a week and a half away from a major match, the biggest match of 2022 on SmackDown, teaming with John Cena for John Cena's first match in over a year. Against Roman and Sammy. I mean, this is just hot story right now. Kevin Owens has to be the top story, and it's a great top story that he pins and wins a tag match against the Usos, who are on this 500+ day run as champions. Now it's a non-title match, so it's a perfect opportunity to, after a hard-fought, crazy, whatever match, to beat the Usos, and then they're still credible. They didn't lose any credibility here, but it's the perfect time to say Kevin Owens just got that win. You have to have it be him. Again, let Rollins do whatever once the cameras are off for the live event. But this is you got to be boosting Kevin Owens' stock up.
Yeah, Jimmy, this is a match where, as they say, a lot of business was done. The Theory stuff, the KO stuff, the Uso stuff. Sammy stuff. It felt like they checked a lot of boxes here at the end of the show.
Absolutely, and they gave us a lot to look forward to coming up, and especially in 2 weeks on Raw and the SmackDown on the 30th. So there's a lot to look forward to, and they made people anticipate this. I'm looking forward to SmackDown in 2 weeks to see that tag match. We talk about it all the time here, talking people into the seats, talking people in front of their television screens. And I think they're doing a hell of a job of doing that right now with the different stories that they're telling. And these ones are kind of mixed together. But again, there's different branches on this tree.
You mentioned, Justin, you mentioned Sammy earlier on, but I think of Kevin Owens in 2021 and the year he had in 2021 compared to 2022, where he gets stone cold out of retirement and then caps it off by teaming with John Cena. I mean, talk about a big year for the guy.
And probably the only person in history that can say within a calendar year works a WrestleMania against Stone Cold and ends their TV year in a match with John Cena.
I mean, crazy, just crazy. And then, of course, the fun thing of the news cycle of 2022 is neither of those things are even close to the biggest story of 2022, which was, of course, Vince McMahon stepping away.
Think about this real quick. Obviously, we're so close to the day-to-day headlines for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember back in the early part of the winter season of 2022 on the calendar, when we start to hear the rumblings and come to find out that, oh my God, Cody Rhodes, what he's leaving, he's leaving AEW, and this is at the same time too, where there's, wait, Kevin Owens is cutting these promos about Texas because like Stone Cold might be coming up. Yeah, that was so huge. And you're right, Jack. Here we are now, and closing out the final 11 days of the year, and that's not even the top three. It's,
nope.
Vince's the Vince stuff, and I mean it's insane. This is one of the most insane years ever.
Any one of those stories would have been the number one story of the year any other year, but nope. So this was, as we wrap it up, this was one of the most entertaining Raws. I think personally, I thought this had the we always talk about the Attitude Era-esque style. There wasn't some of the more racy stuff of the Attitude Era, but as far as the chaos and things happening all over the place and madness basically in the production, this felt very late 90s to me, and I loved it. I thought this was going to be a filler show to go into the holidays, and they entertained the heck out of me. Jimmy, what'd you think?
No, I enjoyed it very much. And what it did was it progressed storylines further. It made you want to see what happens next. And that's what it's all about, especially, you want to end the year off on a good note. I think they ended off the year because next week's final Raw of 2022 is going to be a best of show. I think tonight was a nice way to end Raw for the season, so to speak, and looking forward to 2023. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, without having a bunch of legends out there, novelty acts. I mean, this was one of the best. Okay, like you said, Jack, let's try to take the Crash TV things coming from all directions. This is one of the best ways to do it while having to do it in 3 hours. There's still the things that we talked about, lengthy matches with predictable stopping points for commercials, whatever. But this was a really solid attempt to fill 3 hours and make everybody matter. Let stories crisscross, talk me back into watching in future weeks. Again, without having the bells and whistles of Stone Cold's here tonight, or it's a Raw throwback edition, or where you can dress it up with a gimmick. It's. I'll be interested to see the numbers, and I'm gearing up. I'm gearing up for what will soon be, Jack, the official start of the Road to Memphis. I know you're alredy hitchhiking down, but I'll catch up to you soon.
Already halfway down the road. I was going to say, we started this month thinking, man, Royal Rumble's so far away. What are they going to do? We're almost into January now. They found a way to do it. This is incredible. But that does it for us. Before we get out of there, and before I shout out everyone in the chat, Jimmy, where can the world find you online and all the cool stuff you're working on?
Obviously, you can find me here with Triple J on Monday nights, not next Monday, as Justin already let the cat out of the bag, and Wednesday nights with Justin and Issa, we talk AEW Dynamite, and you can find me on all my social media platforms from Monday to Friday, talking my wrestling rants. Again, not meant to tear down, but to help.
Yep. And Justin, how about yourself? Where can the world find you?
Yeah, at Justin LaBar across all the socials. Again, I'll be back, I think, Wednesday here with Jimmy and Issa, and that'll be the last podcast for me of 2022. I think Busted Open is on much deserved holiday break, so we'll get back into the sparring with them in 2023. And hey, shout out to you guys. This has been a fun Triple J since we've been. I don't remember when we started in this past year, but it really just kind of when they just kept booking us every Monday. I was like, all right, I guess this is the trio. This is the deal.
They never say it's official. You just go, okay, I guess.
No, the office kept booking it, and we just kept showing up, and the people have responded. So thank you to everybody. And I say this seriously. this trio. This is going to be a fun Road to Mania
Mhm.
trio here, the
Yeah.
three of us. So I'm looking forward to it, and happy holidays to everybody.
Me too.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good one. I'm very excited. I'm so excited for what these next few months are gonna look like. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. You can also check out at Wrestling Inc. for all the wrestling news. Of course, there's the Raw after show, but make sure to check out the NXT after show on Tuesdays, the Dynamite after show on Wednesdays, SmackDown and Rampage on Friday after shows. And also, if you're still here, thanks for listening. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you to everyone in the live chat. The Jiff King, Dylan Matthews, Ricky Zaldivar, Bernie D, C Stalking, UK Black in the house. That's a new name I haven't seen in a while. Chris Aldridge as well, Dream Realm Studios, Bernie DC, Tina Miller showing up at the end here. Thanks so much for coming by.
They're like our producers and our stats, because they're always throwing stats at us. They're always helping clear the.
Yeah.
They're part of the team too.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks to the whole Wrestling Inc. team for a 2022 that will not be soon forgotten. I think that does it for us. Happy holidays, happy New Year, happy Boxing Day, happy whatever you celebrate this time of year.
Exactly.
Wrestling Inc. acknowledges.
Stay safe.